Hello everybody, how's it going? My name is Dom. Welcome back to another firearms history video. Last time we talked about Hugo Borchardt and his C93. Today we're talking about the infamous M1897 Winchester pump shotgun. As always, if you have any specific firearm you want to see done, comment below. And if you enjoy my content, leave a like. And with all that out of the way, let's begin. Just like last time, we're going to talk about the designer. And today we're talking about John Moses Browning. He was one of the most influential firearms designers of our time, having a total of 128 firearms patents. Browning was born in January 23rd, 1855, in the territory of Utah, in a town called Ogden. We'll go with Ogden. Browning is known for his designs of firearms, both military and civilian, as well as cartridges and mechanisms. He made his first firearm at age 13 in his father's gun shop. Browning influenced nearly all categories of firearms design. He invented or made significant improvements to single-shot firearms, lever actions, and pump-action rifles and shotguns. Arguably, one of his most significant contributions were in the area of autoloading firearms. He developed the first reliable and compact autoloading pistols by inventing something called the telescoping bolt. Then integrating the bolt and barrel shroud into what is known as the pistol slide. Browning's telescoping bolt design is now found on nearly every modern semi-automatic pistol, as well as several modern fully automatic weapons. He also developed the first gas-operated firearm. That would be the Colt Browning Model 1895 machine gun. A system that surpassed mechanical recoil operation to become the standard for most high-power self-loading firearm designs worldwide. He also made significant contributions to the automatic cannon development. Alright, so now we get the designer. You got a little bit of history about him. I could do a whole video about John Moses Browning himself, because like I said before, he is one of the, possibly one of the greatest firearms and inventors of our time, and possibly like one of the last ones we'll ever see, because he revolutionized the industry multiple times throughout his life. The Winchester Model 1897 was designed by John Moses Browning, as I said beforehand. The Model 1897 was the first listed for sale in the November 1897 Winchester catalog as a 12-gauge solid frame. The 12-gauge takedown was added in October 1898, and the 16-gauge takedown in February 1900. Originally produced as a tougher, stronger, and more improved version of the Winchester 1893, itself an improvement on the early Spencer pump gun. The 1897 was identical to its forerunner, except that the receiver was thicker and allowed for the use of smokeless powder shells, which were not common at the time. The 1897 introduced a takedown design, like I said beforehand, where the barrel could be taken off. A standard in pump shotguns made today. Some improvements of the gun compared to where the frame was strengthened and made longer to handle a 12-gauge 2 3/4 inch shell, as well as the 2 5/8 inch shell. The top of the frame was covered so that the ejection of the fired shell was entirely from the side. This added a great amount of strength to the frame of the gun and allowed the use of a 2 3/4 inch shell without the danger of the gun constantly jamming. The action could not be opened until a slight forward movement in the slide handle released the action of the slide lock. In firing, the recoil of the shotgun gave a slight forward motion to the slide handle and released the action slide lock, which enabled the immediate opening of the action. In absence of any recoil, the slide handle had to be pushed forward manually in order to release the action slide lock. A movable cartridge guide was placed on the right side of the carry block to prevent the escape of the shell when the shotgun was turned sideways in the act of loading. The stock was made longer and with less drop. Alright, so now that we've gotten the design of the gun, we got the person who made it, let's talk about what it was used. So the military usage of this gun, the Model 1897 was issued to American soldiers during the Philippine-American War of 1898. This first major use of the issued shotguns by the United States military involved 200 of shotguns procured and sent to the Philippines in 1900. They are employed in countering loyal tribesmen who engaged the Americans in close quarter combat using knives and swords. Another one was during the punitive expedition in Mexico. Some U.S. soldiers who were also equipped with M97s, already popular before World War I. Series of the model 1897 picked up after the war broke. This is because many were produced to meet the demands of the military. When the United States entered World War I, there was a need for the service weapon to be issued to the troops. It became clear to the United States just how brutal trench warfare was and how great the need was for a large amount of close-range firepower while fighting in a trench. After they have observed the war for 3 years, the Model 1897 trench grade was an evolution of this idea. The pre-existing Winchester Model 1897 was modified by adding a perforated steel heat shield over the barrel, which kept soldiers' hand off the hot barrel, and an adapter with a bayonet lug affixing an M1917 bayonet. This model was ideal for close combat and was effective in trench warfare due to its 20-inch cylinder bore barrel. Buckshot ammunition was issued with the trench grade during the war. Each round of this ammunition contained 9 double-aught buckshot pellets. That's .33 caliber, if anyone wants to know that. This gave considerable firepower to the individual soldier by each round that was fired. This shorter barrel and large amount of firepower was what made this grade ideal for trench warfare. Actually, so good that the Germans protested against it. Alright, so let's talk about the German protest. Although the 1897 was popular with the American troops in World War I, the Germans soon began to protest its use in combat. On September 19th, 1918, the German government issued a diplomatic protest against the American use of shotguns, alleging that the shotgun was prohibited by the law of war. A part of the German protest read that it is especially forbidden to employ arms, projections, or materials calculated to cause unnecessary suffering, as defined in the 1907 Hague Convention on Land Warfare. This is the only known occasion in which the legality of actual combat use of the shotgun has ever been raised. However, the United States interpreted it as the use of shotgun differently than Germany. The Judge Advocate General of the Army, Secretary, and State Robert Lansing carefully considered and reviewed the applicable law and promptly rejected the German protest. The rejection of their protest greatly upset the German forces because they believed they were treated unjustly in the war. Shortly after the protest was rejected, Germany issued the threats that they would punish all captured American soldiers to be armed with a shotgun. This led to the United States issuing a retaliation threat, stating that any measures unjustly taken against captured American soldiers would lead to reprisals by the United States on captured German soldiers who wielded flamethrowers and serrated bayonets. Alright, so now that we've got the history of the shotgun and all that, let's talk about the shotguns of today. Today's shotguns are used by law enforcement and military. For law enforcement, they're used for both lethal and non-lethal ways, by way of using beanbag rounds to stun and disable suspects. Some of the most popular shotguns of today are the Remington 870 series and the Mossberg 500 series. Other companies like Benelli and Ithaca are also well known for their shotguns. Alright, there it is, folks, the Winchester 1897. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, like I said, give this video a like, share it with friends, comment down below if you want to see any sort of firearm. With that, I'll see you next time.